It hasn't quite stolen Christmas, but COVID is definitely leaving its mark. There are only modest changes to restrictions for the next few days. The slight reprieve comes after another 8 new locally acquired cases were detected. The Northern Beaches will be split into 2 lockdown zones. We'll break down the new health orders in a moment, but first here's state political reporter Ashley Raper.
A small Christmas gift from the Premier, but she can't be as generous as she'd like.
Over the next few days, there will be modest changes to restrictions over the Christmas period.
The lockdown on the Northern Beaches will remain, so too will restrictions for the rest of Sydney. Where the changes will come into play is around allowing people to see each other in a limited way.
What we're balancing is balancing risks, balancing COVID risks, balancing mental health risks, balancing community well-being.
Everybody has had a very difficult year. Some people's stress levels and mental health capacity is already at breaking point, and we want to try and put that against the current risks as we see them.
The Northern Beaches will be split into 2 zones. The north, where there'll be tougher rules around visitors, then the south. People living in one zone won't be able to mix with those in the other zone. It means families could be separated, even if they all live on the Northern Beaches.
It's my son's first Christmas. It's my parents' first Christmas as grandparents. I'm an only child, so it means that they're going to be spending it alone. You know, I know it could be far worse. We could be in a much worse position and all the rest, but it doesn't make it any less sad for Christmas.
For the rest of Greater Sydney, 10 visitors will be allowed for Christmas, plus any children under 12.
If we had the case numbers we had a few days ago and the trend wasn't where it was and the cases weren't all linked to the Avalon cluster in the main, well then what we'd be saying today would be very different.
There are 8 new locally acquired cases from almost 42,000 tests. 7 are linked to the Avalon cluster, taking the total to 97. The other new case is a close contact of an infected healthcare worker involved in transfers to hotel quarantine. Neither of these 2 people live on the Northern Beaches, but are infected with the Avalon strain.
We haven't found a link, and because there's a missing link, they can't be linked to the cluster, but we would talk about them being genomically linked, but there is a missing link, and that missing link causes us concern.
There are also more concerns about international flight crews after 1 crew member flew into Darwin from Paris. The Qantas employee self-isolated before flying to Sydney on a domestic flight and has now tested positive for the virus. Ashley Raper, ABC News, Sydney.
And Ashley Raper joins me now. Ashley, there are even more questions about the security of the quarantine system.
Yes, Jeremy, this is yet another case that appears to have slipped through the cracks of the hotel quarantine system. At this stage, there's no suggestion that the Qantas crew member breached protocols. It seems that it's the rules that are causing the problems. And this was across jurisdictions, and the restrictions on international flight crews in the Northern Territory are different to those in New South Wales. Here in New South Wales, the rules were tightened just this week, but regardless, authorities have promised to review the case to try to get to the bottom of what went wrong.
Now we know the rules for Christmas. Let's look further ahead. How's New Year's Eve looking?
There was a big question mark over Christmas Day. Now there's a big question mark over New Year's Eve. The Australian Medical Association has called on the government to cancel the fireworks after Sydney's Lord Mayor Clover Moore also urged them to be called off. But it seems that the government is a way off that decision. Today's decision on Christmas Day came right down to the wire because the situation was evolving, and it still is. So, Jeremy, the focus remains very much on Christmas Day for now.
Ashley Raper reporting. So let's take a closer look at those changes for the next 3 days. Firstly, the Northern Beaches region has been divided into 2 zones with different restrictions. If you are north of the Narrabeen Bridge and east of the Baha'i Temple, 5 people will be allowed to visit your home. That includes children, but they must reside in this peninsula zone. People may not enter or leave this zone unless it's for the existing reasons such as medical care, food, shopping or work. If you're in the rest of the Northern Beaches area, 10 people will be allowed into your home, plus any children under 12. People from outside this area can visit, but residents of this zone may not leave. For Greater Sydney and surrounding regions, you're still only allowed to have 10 people in your home. But on top of that, you can have any children under the age of 12. The Premier says there is a caveat though. You can't get around the rules by having multiple gatherings of 5 or 10 people. The cap on guests applies for the whole day. For regional areas of the state, the restrictions are unchanged. You can have up to 50 visitors, including children, at your home. Many people living on the northern beaches are welcoming the relaxing restrictions, but the decision to divide the area in two is causing complications. Some families have found themselves on opposite sides, and it means they won't be permitted to meet up over Christmas.
For Northern Beaches butcher David Walsh, there was a sense of relief.
I think we're going to have a decent Christmas.
Trade is looking up, but the news wasn't so good for his own family Christmas.
We've got my son on the northern side, which is a bit of a downside.
This is the new dividing line. Those who live north of the Narrabeen Bridge can no longer visit the south. It means Jack Kosciuszko won't be able to see his son Vincent on Christmas Day.
It messed up the whole Christmas because he lives with his mum in the south and I live in the north part.
They weren't the only ones.
This Christmas, my family is in Warriewood, north of the bridge. We're just south, so it means we're not going to have a family Christmas, but if it means keeping everyone safe, then we're all for it.
It's disappointing, but it's necessary.
Others were relieved to find themselves on the right side of the divide.
Well, nothing's really going to change. I was always going to have about 10 guests, so I can have the 10 guests. I'm not that side of the bridge.
Oh, I'm surprised. I was very surprised. I actually thought that the restrictions would have stayed in place, so it means that we can have a few more people at our house.
At the Sydney Fish Market, new rules are in place, but there was a noticeable increase in traffic post-announcement.
It certainly looks like it's picked up a little bit of people have had that big sigh of relief.
It's suddenly starting to feel a lot more like Christmas. Up until now, plans have been up in the air, but now people know what restrictions will be in place and preparations are getting underway in earnest.
I just bought a lobster, a few prawns. I spent $70, so I'm happy.
6 of us, we in one house, but I think we ate 4, just to make it 10.
I've got family on the northern beaches, so won't be seeing them till January now.
Christmas will be different this year, but some things haven't changed. Ursula Malone, ABC News, Sydney.
There are still delays at border crossings as authorities stop people from Greater Sydney travelling interstate. The Transport Workers Union says truck drivers have faced hours of delays at the Victorian border while trying to deliver stock for Christmas. The union wants dedicated truck lanes at checkpoints and changes to border permits.
Yesterday they were backed up 5 hours. Today I understand the queues are still tremendous. No dedicated truck lanes. Confusion reigns over the permit system.
Travellers heading to Queensland have also faced long delays today. Police are monitoring every vehicle crossing the border.